Hi everybody. I'm leaning away from the sun because it's quite bright. I am finishing my third day at the Watsu training and it's beautiful and I love it and I can't wait to share this practice more with the world. It goes so beautifully, as I said yesterday, with my somatic practice that I already do, but being in a warm water pool, it changes everything in your body. Like, this is a body temp pool, not like a hot tub, right, where it's kind of stimulating, and this is like the water's just meeting you at the temperature that you are, and so it holds you in this really beautiful way. And I got a little bit of special treatment today from the instructor. I got to practice floating her, like moving her in the water, which was really cool because her body was so open and receptive, and she's like a tiny woman, so it was just like very easy to move her and kind of explore like my new skills with this modality. And then she floated me, and that was just so I can't even tell you how beautiful that was. I've been getting floated for a while, and this is my first foray into learning how to use this powerful modality to help people release and process things, just at another level than the work I already do with somatics, right? This is somatic work, the water work. It's just so much more passive. My work is very educational and interactive, and this is very passive and wordless, right? So I got to have a session with the master, and so much came up for me. It was like I entered a room in my body where I had previously been, like a few months ago when I was floated last. Like, it's very interesting with this work because I feel like I enter a certain framework of my consciousness. It's the same way with somatics, but they're just like different rooms in like this healing part of my consciousness or something, right? So I entered this room that I hadn't been in for a while, and it was like the same things were waiting for me, like picking up right where I left off in terms of like the processing and letting go. So for those of you who are familiar with like my backstory, for years I had chronic ongoing pain down the left side of my body. Like, with every step that I took, my whole body hurt, especially my left hip. And I obviously take some responsibility for how much I injured myself in my yoga practice. But there were also like ongoing mental and emotional stresses and childhood trauma in my hips that I didn't know about. And as I've been unwinding it over the last, 7 to 10 years, right, that I've been at it with this somatic work, there's so many layers. Like, it's not something that you finish doing, healing is a non-linear adventure. And so, I picked up right where I left off in my last session. I got in touch with first just despair. There was despair in my hips, feeling alone and isolated in my pain, feeling voiceless and unheard and unseen and all those things. So I got first in touch with this despair. But then, there's this practitioner, this masterful woman moving me in the water. And so I'm really knowing that I'm not alone, right, in that despair. And then I got in touch with shame and grief. Shame specifically, it was shame over having needs. I recognized that, as much as, it's hard to, say this, like, because I love my mother, like, she parentified me and she didn't know any better, and it was just part of her stress response. And so, I got kind of dealt like a heavy hand of being responsible for her, or I took that on, right, because she was so dysregulated. And so I got in touch with shame over having needs. I'm sure there's tons of women who can relate to this, right? Because we get into that in our mothering mode, and who knows, we're maybe mimicking our mothers, or who we had to become as children to survive, right? And so I was getting in touch with that shame over having needs, and felt this immense, like, beauty of being given to, of being able to receive this beautiful body work and have this person very attuned to me, because she was, she's masterful at what she does. And I'm the same way with my clients. I get very attuned to them. So it felt so good to receive that as a practitioner, right? And then I got in touch with grief. I got in touch with intense sadness over this whole predicament. And alongside, like, the grief was, eventually some feeling sorry for myself. And I say that, like, not in the way that we judge ourselves for feeling sorry for ourselves or pity ourselves. It was more like compassion. It was more like I felt sorry that I had to experience this, that my little girl had to go through this. And so I experienced, just intense grief, and then also compassion for myself in my grief. And there was a point, where tears were running down my face, and part of me just asked the question. I've asked this question so many times. And in the session a couple years ago with my friend Lori Jean, she actually gave me words to the answer to that question, because I've had that question come and I've had my higher self or my guides answer it, but it has been wordless. But Lori finally gave me these really beautiful words. The question that it comes is, why do I have to go through this? Why do I have to go through so much pain? Why is there so much pain that I've had to experience? And the answer, and these are Lori's words that she gave to me, the answer to why I have to go through so much pain, why is there so much pain in life, came in just like a loving hand. This woman working with me in the water, this loving hand just on my stomach, and as she's gently sliding down my body, massaging my abdomen, I felt the answer. And the answer is, so that you would understand. So that I would understand. And especially understand despair, understand that aloneness, right, that we started with in my journey in this water therapy session, right? I started from this place of despair and aloneness and isolation, and moved through all these different emotions, and it brought me right back to understanding, so that other people will not have to be alone in their pain in my presence, because I understand. And so that was this grace that just came down at the end of the session. And, I was still letting the tears move. I was still feeling just intensely vulnerable, but it was this grace, that kind of brought everything together. Said, this is why, so that you will understand what it means to be human. And you won't let other people be alone and isolated in their humanness. And that is powerful. And I'm not really sure if we can get there without pain. It's hard to say, because we want, I have a child. I don't want my kid to suffer. I look at my son and I want to do everything I can to make sure that he doesn't suffer. And at the same time, with this experience, like the one I've described in the Watsu session, where I moved from despair through guilt and shame and, intense grief, and then, came into compassion for myself, and then asking that question, why does so much pain have to happen in my life, in my body, so that I will understand. I'm not going to be able to prevent my son's growth of his soul. And I have to accept that some of that may come through pain, as it comes through pain for so many of us, whether that's physical pain or mental or emotional pain. And at the end of the day, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual pain, it's always all. We don't really have pain that's not psychosomatic. I have begun to realize even more deeply in my body. Psychosomatic used to be the term people would throw out to diminish your experience or kind of gaslight you, that's not real. And the truth is, it couldn't be more real. You are not an empty shell of a human being whenever you go through any physical experience in your body, be it a car accident or, a weightlifting injury or surgery. There's a mental and emotional landscape that you are intimately part of all the time. It's flowing through you, and it's connected to your past, and it's connected to your present, right? And it's connected to your ancestors, this ongoing mental and emotional and spiritual landscape. And so we can't divorce the two. Whatever we are physically going through is also emotional and mental and spiritual. We may just not be in touch with some of those layers, right? But as I've described in my own experience with this water session, they're always there, and we can find peace in those different layers when they interact with each other. Like the spiritual, higher self, God, my guides, whatever language you want to use, came in and comforted me, and answered my question, right? Same thing if we're having a spiritual crisis, grounding down into our physical body and feeling our breath, feeling the breath and the way that it moves our body, or physically moving our body, going for a walk, doing yoga, getting a massage, any number of these physical experiences when we are having a spiritual or mental crisis, right, or emotional crisis, our body can come in as comfort. So it's so beautiful and essential to integrate these different layers of our consciousness, and there's so many ways to do it. And I'm just completely in love, not only with those somatic work that I do, that I feel is such a prerequisite, it's such a foundation for everything else, because it's like teaching my body how to let go and how to be safe in my body to let go. And then the water work is just this deeper letting go. It's this deeper surrender. And so I'm just excited. I'm so inspired and excited to be getting trained in Watsu and to be adding this to the repertoire. And I know it's going to change the way that, as they say, it's going to change the way I work on land. It's going to change the way that I do my somatics. They're going to deepen each other. So I'm in. I'm so in. And just like a little teaser, like a teaser trailer, I am going to take Watsu 2 in Tahiti. I just have to get a couple more people to come with me, because the guy who's running the training needs 2 more people to make it happen. So I'm going to try to enroll my other students who are here right now, but also just putting it out there. You have to have completed Watsu 1, I think, in order to do Watsu 2, but you can come to Tahiti with me next year, because I'm going to go there as reconnaissance for a retreat that Kim Ureta and I are going to do. Our Flow Your Soma retreat in Tahiti. So I'll be there doing reconnaissance. And honestly, like, more than learning how to do something, let yourself receive it. Let yourself receive the healing, right? And then if you decide you want to give it, or you want to make it a business, right, you can come from an embodied place when you do that. So anyway, I'm just gushing. It's been such a beautiful day. I've got 2 more days of this water training here in beautiful Central California. Is that what they call this area? Like Atascadero, Slow, maybe it's Northern California. I don't know. It's central. We're not quite to the bay. So yeah, it's been great. And my body's feeling very relaxed, and there's more that I could say, but I think I'll leave it at that. I just think it's so valuable for people to hear about my experience. Like, not just because I can talk about it, but because I, am quote unquote a healer. I'm quote unquote like someone who provides healing space for others. It's important for you to know that I also need space held for me, and that I'm also human, and that I also have layers of pain that I work through, right? There's no, as I said before, like, there's no end point to becoming more and more grounded in your human body, more and more free in your human body. It's endless, right? So that's why it's important for people to hear that I go through my shit too, right? So if you've been watching this video, sending you love. If you're watching the replay or whatever, sending you love, and maybe I'll have more good vibes to share tomorrow.